Oh, hey. We're on to Digimon Tamers. Are you ready for me to rate, like, every character from Digimon Tamers in S tier? Well, I tricked you. I'm not gonna do that. Guilmon.
Digimon, voiced by Steve Bloom, in the funniest voice that he ever does.
Guilmon definitely exists outside of Takato. Guilmon has a feral streak. When there's another Digimon around, he acts more animalistic. He's definitely like kind of a stray dog you found on the street vibe. In that, oh, he's cute like a puppy most of the time, but then like, oh, something set him off. His relationship with Takato develops from like a boy and his dog to like equal allies in a fight. A lot of the relationships between Digimon and their tamers in Digimon Tamers is about them going from kind of an uneven place to a more even one. Guilmon's like a baby, and there is actually a Digimon that I think does that better later on. But yeah, no, you can take Guilmon completely separate from Takato and have him exist. And I'm biased, so let's put him in A tier. Yay! If not, he'd be at the top of B. Momentai. So, I mentioned before with Gomamon and Armadillomon, we have the uptight person and the funny partner. Terriermon's the best example of that. You have Henry, who's like very disciplined. He learned martial arts, but then used it to hurt someone, so now he's kind of a pacifist. He's also an older brother figure, having to deal with like his wild younger sister Susie. And then you have Terriermon, who's like another younger brother for him to manage. Terriermon wants to fight. Terriermon wants to get into trouble. Terriermon causes trouble. He is an instigator, unlike Henry, who wants to be a pacifist. And then when they finally do become one, they're covered in guns and just punch people with martial arts in reflection to their combined morals of, yes, we do need to fight to protect people, but we're not going to use excessive force and we're going to be careful. Terriermon has a catchphrase, which like none of these other Digimon do. I think that puts him at the top of A. So let's put him there. Renamon. So while I'd say Guilmon and Terriermon's development isn't marked by evolution, thus making them kind of slower, more natural changes, Renamon's are, much like Rika's. In fact, their relationship kind of just develops like, evolve, evolve. And then at the end, it's like, and the progression is interesting, but her progression is also Rika's progression. So Renamon starts out as a fighter, just wanting to get stronger, just like Rika. Renamon does have the interesting backstory of the main cast. She's the only one who lived in the actual digital world, so she's lived in a world of survival of the fittest. So her teaming up with Rika and getting stronger is just a natural progression of that. Her not knowing that what she's actually looking is for something more. In this case, it's a lesbian relationship. It is almost certainly canon that they go from master and servant to lovers. Take that as you will. So Renamon goes from violent fighting fox to her champion's also still fighting to defensive support role to another supporting Digimon based on attacking with poetry and mantras and protecting and enhancing others. So it's a very honest progression of wanting to get stronger to wanting to protect people. And when she becomes Sakuyamon, she levels out even more. She's like, I feel like a kindness towards all living things. Let's go save Impmon. It's a weird throwaway line. Technically, I should put her in B. I don't think she's as well characterized as Guilmon or Terriermon because her development is directly tied to Rika's and basically mirrors it. The only thing that kind of makes it more interesting is the fact that she's been searching for something more in life. Let's put her at the top of B. Because that is also shared by Leomon. This is Jerry's Leomon, not the Leomon from Adventure. But like all Leomon, he was destined to die. His relationship with Jerry is really interesting. So for those who don't remember Jerry, her mom died when she was young. Her dad was maybe involved in the Yakuza. When she dies, her dad's like, oh, this must have been destiny. And then when Leomon dies, he's like, oh, this too is destiny. Leomon carries some form of guilt, kind of similar to Henry in that maybe he killed someone that he didn't mean to, or hurt someone with his strength. So also kind of similar to Renamon, he was seeking strength. He was fighting the Devas. He ends up with Jerry and is moved by her kindness, her want to help others. And so he moves to kind of almost a paternal protective role, which is great when he dies for Jerry, who's now put all her emotional self-worth and strength into this Digimon. Like Renamon, since he was born in the actual digital world, he's had that life of constant fighting. He's found something more in protecting Jerry. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of B. That's my decision. I swear I will rank characters lower than B from Tamers. Like this one, Cyberdramon, or Monodramon if you want to go with his rookie form. Cyberdramon's a whole can of worms. Let's get into it. So, the author was forced to add a character from the WonderSwan games. That was Rio. He's originally from the Digimon Adventure universe because he paired up with Ken to fight Millenniummon. When Millenniummon died, I guess that's not quite right, to kill Millenniummon, his partner Monodramon fused with Millenniummon, reverting it to a Digi-Egg, which means that Millenniummon's kind of feral, evil nature was inherited when he was reborn, and that's why he's always kind of stuck at an ultimate level. Is feral and mean, and there was literally nothing else about him. I would say it's even worse than Falcomon, or not Falcomon, Hawkmon and Meikomon, because he can't talk. He only talks when he's Monodramon. It seems like the evil side of him's just gone for good. There's nothing to say about him. Justimon isn't emblematic of anything about him. It doesn't help that Rio doesn't have anything about him either. Do I put him all the way down in F? I don't know, he has like a backstory and a reason for existence, and just because of that I'm gonna put him at the bottom of E. There are some Digimon that are more non-entities. Gardramon! That's not the right voice at all, that's just Tentomon. So Gardramon gets his own episode that gives him his backstory. He was an Andromon who was fighting Orochimon, Susanomon style, trying to protect a village of Geckomon. So he's kind of like a normal warrior, so he reads older than like even Leomon, who's kind of the adult of the group, and Renamon, who's the more mature of the rookies. When he gets healed, he reverts to Gardramon, and Gardramon feels like an old rust bucket, and he has one of my favorite lines in the show, where Susie gets pulled into the field, and then Kazu's like, "Oh, you were supposed to be watching her!" And he's like, "I did, I watched the whole thing." So yeah, he's funny. He just kind of exists, though. Kazu and Kenta's Digimon are both kind of non-entities, but I don't know how to rank them, because they're better than Cyberdramon. But they're not as good as, like, even Vmon, because they're not reflective of anything. They're just kind of their own characters that exist, but they don't develop or change or anything. Sorry, Gardramon. They're gonna go there. Lopmon. Lopmon is slightly more interesting, because she was originally a servant of the villain. She was the Rabbit Deva. She was the last one guarding Zhu Chaomon. She has... I don't know quite how to word it, but she definitely has a sense of honor. When Susie approaches, she doesn't be like, "Yo, I'm gonna crush this human," or even report this human to Zhu Chaomon. She's like, "Oh, be along your way." But she gets taken with her, she gets stripped of her powers, and even then, she's sticking by Susie and being like, "No, Zhu Chaomon, please don't do this." Her relationship with Susie's kind of cute, because you have this character who also reads a lot older, stuck with little girl who likes her like a plush animal. Does she reflect anything about Susie? No. Does she have more of a backstory and a more relevant one than Gardramon? Yeah. She has like a formal way of speaking. I don't know. I'm gonna put her under Vmon. Impmon. 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 For those who know, they know. Impmon served as kind of like a Team Rocket hooligan at the start. He'd like cause problems, he'd harass Guilmon when they were trying to hide him. He'd draw their Digimon into trouble. He'd agitate Digimon who had just emerged in the real world and then end up setting them off. But it's because his kid Tamers, he had two children Tamers fighting over him, so he ran away. He wanted to become strong on his own. He ends up finding that power and reveling in it, even though it's gifted to him, that he didn't earn, but was his heart's desire in exchange for basically going to kill the whole cast. And when he finally gets out of that power craze, he regrets it so much that he lets himself be attacked by a bunch of Digimon, basically stripped of all the power that he had gained unrightfully. And then he's the one to save the crew in the real world when the D-Reaper shows up, because he reconnects with his Tamers who have reformed. And God, the attempts at redemption that he does. So the universe's response to Impmon trying to redeem himself is, you will never redeem yourself, you get stabbed in the back and are unable to save Jerry. But that scene where he tries to save her and ends up doing so using Leomon's power, man, that's heartbreaking. So yeah, Impmon's an S. He's probably the most interesting Digimon partner out of this list. I do have a couple others I might put in S, but I want to make sure it's special, so yeah. Impmon S tier. Beelzemon's great. He also has like one of the longest single fights in Digimon. It goes on and on until Gallantmon shows up. I think specifically because he was supposed to be the ultimate big bad, but that didn't happen. Marine Angemon. Marine Angemon does not talk to my knowledge. Marine Angemon goes with Kazu and has even less personality than he does. Marine Angemon has one interesting scene where she blows bubbles inside the D-Reaper, and the D-Reaper is basically a logical program that erases data and eventually learning to erase organics, but it can't understand an attack that's based on love bubbles, which I think is funny and cute and makes sense. It doesn't understand emotions. It literally only just learned about depression and decided humans need destruction. But that's not really Marine Angemon as a character. I can't tell you anything about Marine Angemon. It exists. I don't even know if it's male or female, which will make a statement I make later confusing. F tier, but above Deuterimon. And the only reason Cyberdramon's higher in a tier is because he's around more and does more.